Let's take a brief break from US politics now because we've got Winston Peters on the line. And yet another twist in the Jami Lee Ross saga, New Zealand First has agreed to cast the MP's vote while he's away from Parliament. This is the proxy vote. The Botany MP quit the National Party in spectacular fashion last month and is currently on medical leave. Mr Ross first offered his vote to National, but his offer was rebuffed. So instead he's written a letter to New Zealand First, and New Zealand First has accepted the offer. Winston Peters is about to board a plane and joins me now. Mr Peters, why did you take this offer?
Well, essentially, it's because the right path would be for him to resign his seat and put it to the Botany people in a by-election, but he's not doing that, and no one insists but New Zealand First that that's the right course of action. As a consequence, the people of Botany have no voice at all. That's why we're doing it, because we do believe that the expression of the Botany people at the last election needs to be honoured, and it's for that reason, no other reason.
Given your strong feelings about waka jumping and the Electoral Integrity Amendment Act, are you being a bit hypocritical taking his vote when you actually think that he should get out of Parliament?
No, you're being hypocritical by calling it a waka jumping act. It's not. He's not jumping any waka. He's left a party that's really expelled him, as you well know. He was expelled from it. So where was the jumping part? And you start there and keep it on base, we'll be fine in this conversation. My point is that he came to us and said, look, I cannot be there all the time. I'm not there at the moment. I need to make sure that people of Botany have their expression, even if it's for the National Party to be voiced. Will you guys do it? And we had a long conversation and thought about it and said, well, it'd be pretty bad of us not to say yes, even though it doesn't advantage us at all in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, but you have said, and you say very clearly in your press statement today, that he should resign his seat and take it to a by-election. So you're taking his vote, even though you don't agree with the way he's acting. Surely there is a conflict there for you.
Now, what is that conflict?
Integrity.
Perhaps if you're going to talk about a conflict of integrity, you start, please, naming it for your listeners. Because we have said, Mr Ross, that's what you should do. We've said the National Party, that's what should be done. The National Party, of course, opposed the electoral integrity legislation all the way through and now are caught with it because they were playing silly power games. In this case, it's a clear case of a democratic intention, which is the core of the integrity legislation in the first place, which is when people vote, they're entitled to have their vote counted in the legislation of Parliament. That's what Parliament's about.
Did you talk to Jami Lee Ross directly, Mr Peters?
No, I did not.
Who negotiated this?
Well, he wrote to our whips, and that's where the conversation started. And that's the end of it. That's basically, the whips went to caucus. This was a few weeks ago the request was made. The matter went to caucus yesterday, and we thought, well, let's reflect upon all the ramifications. And they decided that we should meet his request.
Has he offered it to any other parties besides National, do you know?
He, in written form, said that he hadn't.
Right, and have you placed any conditions on taking this vote?
No, because we don't have any conditions on the expression of democracy in that sense.
So how are you going to
our vote? He says, I want you to cast our vote with respect to the National Party the way they would have cast my vote if I'd not been there and nothing had changed. And we've said, okay, well, that's what you want, we'll do it.
So, to be clear, you will use the vote, his proxy vote, and will vote with National as National does until Jami Lee Ross comes back to Parliament.
With one refinement. No, we will not do that. He will via us. We will not use the vote. We are putting his vote. And there's one massive difference, so we need to get the democratic lexicon or dictionary right.
So, how can you accept this proxy in good conscience, given your strong feelings about people who leave their party in Parliament? You've stated that he should resign. He's not going to at this point. You have going to exercise his proxy. How can you do that in good conscience?
Well, you can't stalemate democracy. That's the point. We've said that the proper way and only appropriate way, in our view, is to have a by-election. But in the absence of that, where do you go now? You just have an impasse, do nothing, or do you say, well, the expression of democracy is still important, and that's what we've said.
So you've got a bob each way.
Well, what would that be? Which bob is going what way? He gets to ensure that the seat he stood for and that voted for him in a serious majority gets its voice heard in Parliament. That's not a bob each way. That's just one bob in the way of the people of Botany.
All right, thank you for joining us this afternoon. That is the leader of New Zealand
Welcome.
First. Appreciate your time. Winston Peters. New Zealand First has accepted Jami Lee Ross's offer of the proxy vote temporarily. Winston Peters there saying it will be exercised. They will vote along with National until Jami Lee Ross is back in Parliament so that the people of Botany are represented.